Because Iran remains on the edge, with the country witnessing the biggest unrest in years. What started as a protest over the economic woes has snowballed into an uprising challenging the Khamenei regime. The crackdown unleashed by Iran has so far killed more than 500 people, while more than 10,000 have been detained. Despite the crackdown, the anger is palpable and protesters continue to hit the streets in large numbers. Scenes of clashes, arson and violence have also been witnessed. As the situation spirals out of control, U.S. President Donald Trump has issued a stern warning, saying the line has been crossed and that U.S. is mulling strong options. Trump has also signaled that he's in touch with Iranian opposition leaders, making the world wonder if regime change in Iran. And Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei hit back at Trump, sharing a provocative cartoon on social media, linking the U.S. president to fallen tyrants from history and suggesting that his power too would prove temporary. As the war of words between U.S. and Iran escalates, the world is also watching the developments closely. The question on everyone's mind is that after a virtual takeover of Venezuela, is a beleaguered Iran now on Trump's radar? The U.S. president has already declared himself to be the acting president of Venezuela and has further said that the idea of Secretary of State Marco Rubio becoming the president of Cuba sounds good to him. Trump has already declared his plans to acquire Greenland, leaving many to wonder if the U.S. president is out to redraw the world map. In contrast, U.S. has softened its stand on India, with U.S. Ambassador to India Sergio Gore saying that the next round of talks on the crucial India-U.S. trade deal is scheduled for tomorrow, underlining Washington's determination to move negotiations forward. He's also described the ties between PM Modi and U.S. President Trump as real friendship, who may disagree, but they know how to resolve their differences.
Many of you have asked me for an update on the ongoing trade deal negotiations. Both sides continue to actively engage. In fact, the next call on trade will occur tomorrow. Remember, India is the world's largest nation, so it's not an easy task to get this across the finish line, but we are determined to get there.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Taking us across to our guest, joining us is Major General G.D. Bakshi, who's a defense analyst. We have Burzeen Waqba from the Center of Iranian Studies at SOAS University of London. Mark Burns is the founder of the Now television network. But my first question is to Arman Mahboudian, who's a research fellow at the Global and National Security Institute at the University of South Florida. Arman, the question that is on many people's minds is that why has it taken so long for the regime to come out and say, all right, we're okay with talking to the United States? Because the very fact that the protests have been on for several days now, after so many hundreds of people have died and thousands have been detained, why has the regime let things come to such a pass? Because you can talk about foreign interference, but the fact is that these protests are there for very serious and domestic governance issues.
Well, that's a very good question. Thank you for inviting me. I think one of the reasons that the establishment of the Iran right now decided to give the negotiation a chance, if the reports are correct, and it seems that they reached out to the White House on Friday through Mr. Arakchi, the foreign minister, it's because the dynamic of the challenges and the struggles that the Iranians are facing is getting larger, expanded, and more diverse. You know, if you compare the Iran's position with the Green Movement era or 5 years ago, you would notice that the Iranian government has been weakened both inside and outside of the home. Outside of the home, the main tool of the Iranians' advancement of the strategy or military doctrine, which was the axis of resistance, is to a great extent being undermined. It's not vanished. It is not correct because they are still present in the Iraq and they have some, as well as still have some activity. But Syria is no longer as a member of the axis is in the picture. Hezbollah being weakened and Hamas's future is uncertain. The other matter is that, you know, when you look at all of the other elements of what Iranian calling the elements of the iqtidar saz, or the power projecting elements, including the missile program and nuclear program, they've both been hit during the June war. So this is on the foreign aspect, the external aspect of it. On internal aspect, the Iranians are facing various and diverse problems. One of them, and primarily one, is the issue of the economy. Look, today, $1 US is worth around 157,000 toman. When the national currency of the government declines that severely, it comes at a cost. What the cost would be is a surge in the price of the products, including the food, because you either import all the products or elements of them, which causes inflation, major problem in people maintaining their daily life, and there is so much.
People have every right to protest in that case, and calling it a foreign interference perhaps is not in that sense justified. Burzin Wagmar, how do you respond to what's being stated here by Arman?
Oh, I concur with what Arman has said. The point is that the social contract is completely broken with the people. What the regime can exercise and will continue doing so is sheer brute force, which it has done and feels it can ride out as it has with previous protests going all the way back to July 1999. But this time it feels different, and that we are on the precipice of something, because to iterate again, as I have been repeatedly saying, it's the poorest sections of society and the pious sections, including the traditional lower working class and Bazari middle class Shias. It's not just urban Gen Z sorts and millennials who want more civil liberties and freedoms. These are bread and butter issues, and they've seen their earnings evaporate overnight. The point is what has kept them going, and the options that Khamenei faces now are very few. He has a very weak hand to play with, but he has a hand nevertheless, in that he can keep suppressing the population and shooting them in cold blood, which is what is happening, and 500 plus deaths have occurred across 31 provinces. Each and every province of the Islamic Republic is now racked by violence. I repeat, each and every one of the 31 provinces. And leadership unity has not fragmented. That is at the very highest echelons. The point is they can keep going at it because that's the only option they have. But in order to survive, the question, and this is what has been put out, is with Trump's rhetorical threats, which may be translated into action, what next? Well, and I would just hazard this, that they could race towards a bomb, or they could distract and start a firing and have a regional war with Israel, which is what Saddam did during Gulf War 91 by firing Scud missiles into Israel and distract from the actual Kuwait crisis, if you remember, in Jan 91. They could exercise either of the options, or they could come to some negotiation. If the Omani minister Badr al-Busaidi arrived in Tehran, some say it may be some message from Trump for talks, but the Iranians will continue being defiant.
So what will Trump do? That's the moot point. Will US intervene like it has in the case of Venezuela? We're already talking, Mark Burns, of a situation where, statements relating to Greenland have, sent a huge flurry of reactions and concern in Europe. Are we looking at a possible boots-on-ground kind of regime change operation in Iran as well?
Well, first of all, America stands with freedom and stands for human rights. President Trump has made it very clear that the U.S. stands with the Iranian people who have courageously been protesting because of the economic crisis within their country. And as my colleague just stated, violence is taken up in every province in Iran. The people have realized that the current regime, the current government has caused this economic crisis. And so, hundreds have been killed, thousands have been detained amidst this evil crackdown. So the president understands that this is not about, taking over Iran. This is about supporting human life, human dignity. And the very fact that Iran now wants to come to the table to have a conversation, as President Trump stated, it is because of the pressure that the U.S. has placed onto Iran. And so Iran needs to understand negotiation really doesn't work unless the other side knows that there's consequences if they failed to bring peace and continue this violence on their own people, because the Iranian government, the regime, current regime, they are afraid of their own people, hence why they are locking people up, they're killing people, they're detaining people, and they're trying to respond to their woes, economic woes, with violence.
But Mark Burns, it's a bit rich, when videos of ICE officials actually point-blank shooting a woman have gone viral, and they're all over social media. So you can lecture people about human rights, but the U.S.'s own track record is also there for all to see.
Well, let me respond to that, because you're ignoring and omitting intentionally, I believe, some very, very facts. The fact is, this lady who was blocking an actual ICE investigation, number one. Number two, when the ICE agent asked her to get out of her car, she said no, she refused to. That is against the law. Number two, the ICE agent asked her to stop moving. She was driving her vehicle. Every police officer, every federal officer, a law enforcement officer in America has this right to ask the vehicle to stop. By law, they have to stop. She chose not to stop. The third thing is she used a weapon that she did have access to, and it is called a vehicle. She had a car, right? And so she chose to put her feet on the gas, knowing that there was an ICE agent in front of her, a federal agent in front of her.
Right.
She still chose to press the gas.
All right.
So we cannot ignore, admit that this officer was struck. There's too much video evidence.
Widely debated issue, but I don't want to distract from the core issue, which is Iran. I want to bring in General Bakshi on that note. General Bakshi, from India's perspective, India's traditionally, historically had close ties with Iran. From a commerce perspective, we are heavily invested in Chabahar port, over $500 million there. And of course, the traditional oil purchases that India has had from Iran, which are on hold because of pressure from the United States. Is there a likelihood of an intervention like Venezuela in Iran? Or do you see this playing out domestically when it comes to Iran? General Bakshi, what are the implications for India?
Venezuela is a different ball game. Iran is not the same cup of tea. I don't think the United States will like to put boots on the ground in Iran. They did it a long time back in that hostages rescue, and they have regretted it ever since. At best, they could be a bombing campaign in tandem with Israel to try and go for their nuclear capability, nascent nuclear capability. Yes, there is economic turmoil and chaos in Iran, but who caused it? It is one of the most sanctioned countries in the world. It's the very familiar United States playbook. Sanction a country into dire economic distress.
No.
Cause the people distress so that they'll rise up in revolt.
No.
You see, no, sorry, let me finish. So that they would rise up in revolt. There are reports and indications that the CIA, the Mossad are quite actively engaged. There is a large population of expatriate Afghans there, which they have exploited. There are the Baluchis, Sunni Baluchis, which they have exploited. And their intelligence support is being provided by Iranian Jews, etc. The struggle is violent. But till now, I don't think it has surpassed the levels that were earlier seen when that girl was killed by the IRGC. So the fact of the matter is it spun totally out of control as yet or now or not? That remains to be seen, right? And Iran is not that toothless. Yes, if Israel and America attack it in tandem, it will go down. But Iran's strategy has always been, we will go down, but we'll take you down with us. We will fire off our missiles at Israel cities, at American bases,
right,
at the tankers, oil tankers in the Gulf of Hormuz, sink them, mine them, and send the price of oil shooting up to $150 a barrel.
Right.
Which nobody in the world wants. That is what has prevented an outright attacks against Iran so far.
Okay.
Right?
Burzin wants to respond to you. Burzin Wagmar has a point to counter you. I'm going to allow him to come in now. Burzin Wagmar.
Sanctions are the least of it, which is made out to be by the leftist libertarian narrative that Iran has been brought to its knees by sanctions. Iran has been brought to its knees by decades of economic mismanagement, ideologues instead of technocrats running the economy, and the IRGC, which has stifled the economy, the Revolutionary Guards, just like in Pakistan next door with the 4G Foundation and the Shaheen Foundation, who have their finger in every pie through endemic corruption. It is mismanagement and structural inequities which has brought Iran to this. Sanctions are the least of it. Point number one. And point number two, nobody is spinning Baloch Sunnis or Kurds or Luris, minorities who have officially been discriminated against since 1979 by the regime. Tehran does not have a Sunni mosque. It calls itself an Islamic Republic as a country, a self-styled Islamic Republic since 1979, and a city of 15 million, Madhav, a metropolis, one of West Asia's largest capital city. It has Zoroastrian fire temples and Jewish synagogues and a Sikh Gurudwara, but it does not have a Sunni mosque. So that tells you the level of discrimination that is played out by the system.
Okay.
Sunnis have been repeatedly discriminated against. Balochistan in Iran is the largest, like Pakistan, and the most impoverished province. So these arguments that there are Mossad agents on the ground is nonsense. You can't tell me when 12-year-old girls are shot dead in cold blood by the revolutionary guards
let me just
that
bring
they
in
are
Mark
Mossad
Burns on that.
agents.
Since the allegation is about U.S. intelligence agencies, you can respond to that point, Mark Burns. And secondly, I just want to read out a social media post of Khamenei where he said that father figure who sits there with arrogance and pride passing judgment on the entire world, he too should know that usually the tyrants and oppressors of the world, such as Pharaoh, Nimrod, and Reza Khan and Mohammad Reza and the likes of them, when they were at the peak of their pride, were overthrown. This one too will be overthrown. Your response to that, Mark Burns?
Well, listen, let's just be very clear. The president wants to negotiate. That's his first and foremost plan. It is not to war. The question was asked, is this another Venezuela situation? The president has made very comments in the past. I've spoken to him personally about this. The president has made it very clear. We know exactly where the supreme leader is. And if he wanted a regime change, he could easily do it. His goal is to negotiate, but also protect the innocent lives of the Iranian people who are revolting. And as the gentleman just said, this has happened because of the mismanagement of economics by the current regime and the oppression of its people. That's what's at stake here. And so do we want to put American boots on the ground? Absolutely not.
All right.
It is not the president's
All right. I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. We're completely out of time. Major LGD, Bakshi, Burzin, Wagbar, Mark Burns, as well as Arman Mahmoodian. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this evening.